All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for being here today. Can I get roll call to establish quorum, please?
Dr. Ravi,
Here.
Ms. Shaw,
Here.
Ms. Counts, Ms. Luna Rose,
Here.
Ms. Grijalva,
Here, thank you. Ms. Counts unfortunately will not be able to join us this evening, but today is Tuesday, August 9th. And so I'll go ahead and move to the land acknowledgement. And the land acknowledgement is being read by Maria Federico Brummer. I have a little bit of stuff to say about you, Miss. She is Director of Mexican American Student Services. She is an Mexican Indigenous educator who's honored to serve as the Director of Tucson Unified Schools District's Mexican American Student Services Department during the span of her over 20 years in the district. Time flies so fast, doesn't it? Maria has developed and supported culturally relevant practices to bring our students' culture, language, and other assets to the forefront of education in partnership with their families. While advocating for the equity of voice in our district, Ms. Federico Brummer continues to own growth and learning as a current doctoral student in Mexican American Student Services at the U of A. Felicidades. Maria is proud of being a TUSD legacy and mother to Xochitl and a Tucson High Badger. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know how busy you are. So.
Thank you.
Is your mic on? Yeah, it was. I don't think it is now.
Thank you. President Grijalva for the introduction, and all the governing board members. It's good to be here. Dr. Trujillo, our superintendent, and of course, Mr. Ross, our general counsel. It's an honor to be able to present the land acknowledgement. Mishpan 5 ne toka Maria, ni Chaneke Federico Brummer, ni Kalpolite Oshikali, ni Tamanarka. On behalf of the governing board of Tucson Unified School District, I, Maria Federico Brummer, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pasco Yaqui tribe. And in Español, Declaración de Reconocimiento de Tierras. En nombre de la Junta de Gobierno del Distrito Escolar Unificado de Tucson, yo, Maria Federico Brummer, reconozco que las escuelas, edificios y instalaciones del Distrito Escolar Unificado de Tucson residen en la patria ancestral de la nación Tohono O'odham y la tierra tribal reconocida federalmente de la tribu Pasco Yaqui. Good night.
Thank you. And thank you. I think that's the first time I've heard it in Spanish as well, so we appreciate that. Thank you so much. And now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe we have Sarah online. Yay. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to introduce you a little bit. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Sarah Bowl. She's in 8th grade at McGee Middle School. Sarah is one of McGee's star students. She prides herself in her academic studies and was on the A honor roll all last year. She participates in Korean Ambassador Program, track and field at McGee, and also makes some stellar flour tortillas. Excellent. She is a go-getter and part of our web student program this year. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us. I know you have a lot of stuff going on, so we appreciate your attendance here, and we are ready for you to lead us in the pledge whenever you are. So let's, if we just wait a moment. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you being here. Have a good night. Thank you. Okay. Dr. Trujillo, agenda adjustments 2.4.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, I would like to recommend that item 8.1 and our guests from the Instrumental Music Center proceed with their presentation directly following item 3.1, the superintendent's report.
Okay, board members, any objection to that? Okay, thank you. So now we're on 3.1, the superintendent's report.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, and of course, members of the general public, those of you viewing online, welcome to the first governing board meeting of the new school year. And as I do every year, let's talk about enrollment. Week one, as of August 8th, the district is up in enrollment, just over 1,000 students, as compared to the 40th day of last school year, 21-22. It's TUSD high schools and K-5 schools that are carrying the bulk of the enrollment increase. More confirmation that the TUSD high school is one of the most sought after K-12 experiences in Pima County. We continue to see large enrollment increases at our high schools. This is the third or fourth consecutive year. Our middle schools experiencing a slight decline as of this day, about 50 students. It is important to note that enrollment is a very fluid situation. We will not have a full finalized enrollment until after the 10-day drop process. All districts in the state of Arizona are required to drop or withdraw students from their registration and enrollment records after 10 consecutive days of non-attendance. So we are right now, just concluded day 4. The 10th day of the school year will be August 18th. That is next Thursday. We will proceed the morning of the 19th to identify all of those 10-day drops. And of course, we'll return to the governing board with a more formal presentation once we clear the 10-day drop process. This is a snapshot of where we stand day 4. Kindergarten enrollment, just under 3,000. So a little bit of a bounce back from the pandemic years. We, of course, recognize that kinder is one of the most important and foundational grade levels, not just instructionally, but also for the district's pipeline into the K-8 and eventually K-12 system. As many of you know, big news for the Tucson unified community. July 19th, the long-standing desegregation order, after almost 5 decades, came to an end, formally ended for the Tucson Unified School District. I want to really take this opportunity to communicate a few very, very important pieces of information for the public and for our employees out there. Those that have contacted me nervous that there will be budget cuts, that there will be programmatic eliminations with programs and positions funded by DSEG. Please know that there are no budgetary cuts planned or any programmatic adjustments planned for the 22-23 school year. The desegregation budget for this school year 22-23 has been finalized and voted on by this governing board. So I want everybody to rest assured we will not be doing any kind of budget cutting in the middle of this fiscal year, any kind of programmatic eliminations. Also importantly to note that full authority and independent governance and oversight have returned to the TUSD governing board. Prior to the district's release from court supervision, any major structural, operational, or instructional or changes with ramifications to integration or academic achievement would need the approval by the federal judge assigned to this case. That is not so anymore. So now all of the decision-making and the governance returns to the local level under the auspices of our duly elected governing board. The formal structures that were present throughout the case's almost 50-year history, structures and parties such as the implementation committee, the special master, the plaintiffs' representatives have likewise been dissolved along with the dissolution of the case. Our district, as we've said many, many times before, and as we've taken action, the district remains committed to the principles of our Unitary Status plan, and we will continue that work under the leadership of our governing board. It should be noted that any programmatic changes that we seek approval of the governing board on at any point moving forward, we are required to go through what's known as a PIA, a performance impact analysis, where we have to prepare a very detailed report on any potential impacts, ramifications, or consequences to integration or academic achievement prior to any major decision being made by the governing board. This performance impact analysis report must be presented publicly at a legally convened meeting of the governing board before our board can take action on any administrative proposal. So just a word on unitary status. I also want to take this moment to thank the list that is it's too long to mention, of all of the passionate educators and advocates and district leaders that have worked tirelessly through the life of this case to bring us to this day, where now Tucson Unified School District is an independently governed school district. A quick update as we begin the school year. COVID-19 is still with us. However, our district is now shifted from reacting to and managing a pandemic to living with an endemic, much like we do with every other virus, such as a strong flu season or any other virus that hits our campuses. We do remain committed to adherence to mitigation efforts and recommendations. There'll be continued priority for our administration, for all of our employees in all of our buildings. What we do know about COVID-19, it is not landing a large percentage of our employees and students in emergency rooms or urgent care clinics, but operationally, when our employees do get sick, they are off the job 6, 7, almost 10 days, and we are responsible for covering those work areas. It's a tremendously disruptive force in the district operationally when we have to collapse bus routes and double up routes for drivers to cover for sick drivers. It's disruptive in our kitchens and cafeterias when we have to ask our food service employees to work overtime. And then, of course, in the classroom when our teachers are out 7 to 10 days, our struggles in securing sub-coverage have well been documented and would even be exacerbated by prolonged absences. And at the center of our efforts, of course, are the children and young people that we serve. When they get infected with COVID-19, they are out 6 to 8 days, and getting them caught up and reintegrated back into the learning environment is a tremendously stressful experience, not just for our students, but for our teachers that have to prepare the work and get them caught up. So we do not want to take our foot off the gas in terms of encouraging all of our employees to, number one, stay home when they're sick. Of course, use hand sanitizer frequently throughout the day. And of course, if it is your choice to mask up, and above everything else, make the choice to get vaccinated or the choice to get boosted, and to take care of yourselves, our employees, and our students in all areas of your lives, personal and professional. Please note that district and site administrators have been encouraged to utilize remote meeting options and to reduce or eliminate large-scale indoor gatherings during times of medium and especially during times of high-level transmission in Pima County. And of course, it should be noted that House Bill 2616 prohibiting school districts and schools from implementing mask mandates formally takes effect on September 25th, 2022. I want to take this opportunity to thank Arizona State Superintendent for Public Instruction, Kathy Hoffman, for her visit to TUSD last Friday. I had the opportunity, along with our governing board president, Ms. Grijalva, out at Holiday, and our governing board clerk, Ms. Luna Rose, at Bonillas to formally welcome and accompany our state superintendent on her visits to Holiday K-5 Magnet and Bonillas K-5 Magnet. She had no shortage of wonderful things to say about the amazing things that she saw on each campus and the passionate educators that she met. Our administration has invested, thanks to the approval of our governing board, over $3 million in the structural upgrades that Superintendent Hoffman saw at both schools, most notably in the areas of campus technology, outdoor learning spaces, and of course, at Holiday, Creative Arts Learning Lab, new recording studio, new dance studio, all in the service and for the accessibility of our wonderful students. Thanks again to Governing Board President Grijalva and Clerk Luna Rose, and of course, Arizona State Superintendent for Public Instruction, Kathy Hoffman, who even took time out of her busy schedule to record a short welcome back video for the employees of the Tucson Unified School District. We conclude the superintendent's report this evening on a note of sadness. One of our youngest leaders, one of our most dynamic young leaders from Saguaro High School, tragically lost his life recently. Adam Boehm was an exceptional young man who thrived at everything that he committed to. He has a large, loving family, cared deeply for his siblings. He enjoyed music, sports, and learning. Adam was a member of our Saguaro High School band, football, soccer, track and field, and cross-country teams. His genuine, kind spirit drew people to him and made him a leader on the Saguaro campus. Our community, and our district for that matter, is devastated by the unexpected loss of this tremendous young man, but the memory of his beautiful soul will help us through. He is survived by his parents and his siblings. On behalf of the Tucson Unified School District, our employees, and our student body, I would like to personally extend our condolences to the Boehm family. May he rest in peace. May we observe a moment of silence, a tragic loss of life, Adam Boehm. Thank you, Governing Board. That concludes the Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. We are going to go ahead and move to item 8.1, Instrumental Music Center recognition of TUSD's 10th consecutive year receiving Best Communities for Music Education Award.
President Grijalva, members of the Governing Board, it is no surprise that we are here and that we are being recognized for excellence in music education. We don't do a good enough job of thanking this Governing Board for the last two budgets that they have approved. The last two budgets for the 21-22 school year and the 22-23 school year that feature funding for 30 music educators to come back into the district, as well as a $4.5 million investment in instrument replacement, the replacement of band uniforms, mariachi uniforms, and mariachi equipment. And that is just the business of this Governing Board, who has unquestionably supported the expansion and the accessibility of the arts, the visual, the performance, and the fine arts in every corner of this district. And with that, I would like to welcome Leslie Sturm, President of the Instrumental Music Center, to recognize our district for being awarded the National Association of Music Merchants Best Communities for Music Education for the 10th consecutive year.
Thank you, Dr. Grijalva. Good evening.
I appreciate the promotion. That's Dr. Trujillo.
I apologize.
I know you were looking at me, though. I appreciate it. However.
Good evening, President Grijalva, members of the Governing Board, Legal Counsel Ross, and Superintendent Trujillo. My name is Leslie Sturm, and I'm the owner of the Instrumental Music Center here in Tucson. I am here to give you a hearty congratulations for being named the best communities of music education for the 10th year in a row. I've made up these fancy certificates for your offices to show you what a great thing this is. Look how fancy these are. There we go. I made to remember the achievement and your support of music in Tucson. Music is the most socially acceptable form of self-expression in our culture. It gives humans the space to create, collaborate, communicate, and feel good. It gives people common language to speak with. It bridges the divide between social groups. It gives people a unique voice. It's one of those universally good things in the world. In April, we had a group of music store owners here in Tucson. Dr. Ashcraft and Dr. Trujillo presented on one of the sessions. Dr. Trujillo shared a story of a struggling school district that he worked with and how many different solutions they were working with to try to bring the school district to be a better place. He recounted that when music was introduced to the schools, that things got better. Discipline issues, attendance grades, all improved with the addition of music to the curriculum. The audience was other music store owners like me, and they were all shocked when Dr. Trujillo proclaimed his unwavering support for music education, how he hopes to always keep it off the budget chopping block, and how important it was to a well-rounded education and to student achievement. This commitment is evident in Tucson Unified School District. Only 4 other school systems in Arizona were named Best Communities of Music Education. You guys are rocking it. It is one of the best communities for music education in Arizona. So I'd like to thank all of you. Thank you to Dr. Trujillo for believing that music makes things better. Thank you, Governing Board, for your unwavering support of music education here in Tucson. You have to make a lot of great decisions, giant ones, and we appreciate you choosing music and the arts. Thank you to Dr. Ashcraft for her long-standing leadership in the community. And thank you to all you music educators. We couldn't do it without you. You're the ones that help humanity. You're the ones that inspire and teach our children. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite everyone outside. We're going to have a big surprise, a special treat. These musicians will be playing God Bless America for all of us. Thank you.
one's brighter.
I don't care. Give it on.
Oh yeah. So I think last time I just.
We gotta bring our instruments, huh? Hey, how was that bravery? It was a national thing, or are you part of the Arizona one? No, I was not.
Performance was live streamed, and all of the teachers, all of the people that were playing are teachers in our districts. That was so amazing. Beautiful. Okay, so we are on to call to the audience, and ¿hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete? Tenemos alguien aquí que te puede asistir. Creo que no, but you know. You're welcome to stay. Okay, so I didn't see anyone, but we do have our interpreter here. I'm going to go ahead and turn over the call to the audience to Clerk Luna Rose.
All right, thank you, President Grijalva. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad you could make tonight's meeting, August 9th, our first meeting after school has started, and I hope everybody's school year has started off well. Okay. During the call to the audience, the board clerk will recognize speakers and maintain order by setting appropriate limitations. The governing board is committed to the safety of the entire TUSD community. The following procedures related to call to the audience portion of the board meetings will be observed. All public comments for the meeting were accepted by either emailing or calling the board office to have names added to the list or by emailing written comments to be read into the record by noon of the day of the meeting. If public comments were sent in, they will be read into this record by staff. Individuals addressing the board should observe rules of propriety and good conduct and refrain from impertinent or slanderous remarks. TUSD serves students from all ages, so speakers should be aware that children may be present or listening. Our staff will make sure each board member receives a copy of all written comments. At the conclusion of the call of the audience, the governing board president will ask if individual board members wish to respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put forth on a future agenda. By law, at most, 2 board members can address any single issue raised during the call to the audience. On our first this evening, letter to be read by Jennifer Earl.
I spoke at the last school board meeting during the call to the audience about the simmering bus crisis and the dangerous route my daughter has to take to get to her hub. I am out of town on business, so I have sent in this comment. First, in terms of updates, the Director of Transportation, Martha, spoke with me after I spoke at the last school board meeting and eventually called a week later to tell me that nothing could be done. I had also, as you may recall, been invited by the superintendent to call his office, which I did. Despite being told I would absolutely receive a call back and status update by August 1st, I have received no call. I also asked to speak with the superintendent to provide more feedback and was told he would call, but has not. So whatever impression the school board was given that my daughter's case was isolated and could be fixed, and whatever impression of responsiveness was presented, it's empirically false. Second, the actual bus hub and route seems to be designed to minimize usage. Putting aside the chaos of the hub system because of inadequate instructions, the hubs are unworkably long rides. In the afternoon, my daughter gets on the bus at Dodge, which is at Pima between Craycroft and Wilmot at 3:50, and then rides for over 15 stops, finally reaching her hub an hour and a half later, as the buses are always late. Even though a direct drive would be about 3 miles, she is bused down to Alice Vale, over to McGee, through various apartment drop-offs. In real terms, even if we drive to and from her hub, we have to leave at 7:30 a.m. and get home at 5:30 p.m. That is a 10-hour day for an 11-year-old girl. I hope you feel some shame in hearing that. We have also been told that if she doesn't scan her badge and ride her hub bus, she won't be eligible to get a route later in the year if more drivers become available. So, if we can change our work schedules and do the 11-minute drive from our home to Dodge and back each day, asking her to spend less than 25 minutes commuting to school instead of 2.5 hours, we will blamed for her not using the bus and she won't be rerouted. I point this out because I want to make clear that this hub system was designed as if its goal is to minimize usage by parents and then use that non-usage as evidence of a lack of need or demand. To this point, this hub assignment is actually an improvement over last year when our hub was twice as far from our home, as the school clearly never designed to be actually used by us. I implore the school board to begin to use your oversight responsibilities and put a data-driven update on busing on every forthcoming school board agenda until all bus-eligible students are receiving adequate and safe busing. How many children who are eligible for transportation are currently assigned hubs? What is the time to distance ratio for kids having to use these hubs? Why are future non-hub routes for a child jeopardized if parents opt out of these dangerous and awful hubs? What priorities will be used to assign new drivers? How long are kids having to ride on the bus between their schools and their
Ms.
hubs?
Pena, we've hit the 3-minute mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Christine Brown. Christine, are you here? Okay. Next on our list is Kyle Hetherington, either in person or email. Didn't receive an email for that one? Okay. Then I shall move on. Next, we have Ms. Dolores de Vera.
Hello. My ask today is on behalf of my fellow substitute teachers who used to have to work through ESI. I would like to know if TUSD plans to restore the earned sick days that my colleagues earned between July 1st, 2017 and January 1st, 2019 or later. As you know or should know, TUSD unchained most of us from ESI on January 1st, 2019. The retiree subs were unchained a little bit later after TUSD and ESI had a dispute. But after we started working again for TUSD without the interloper ESI, TUSD took away all the sick days we had earned when we were co-employed by TUSD and ESI. Board members, you know or you should know that the Pima County Superior Court ruled that TUSD was wrong to take away the sick days I had earned when I was co-employed, and they ordered my sick days restored or for me to otherwise be compensated. It took that court order and a couple of months and a little cajoling, but my hours were restored to me in May. I am very, very glad for that. But there are many, many others who earned their sick days and had them taken away as well. Now that you know that TUSD misinterpreted the law and took away sick days from subs, will TUSD please restore the days for all of the subs who were unjustly penalized? When my days were taken away from me, I lost less than $200. But conceivably, there could be some subs out there who lost 5 to 8 days worth of sick days, which could be a value of $600 to $1,000. For most, it's probably not that much. It's probably a few $100s. But this booklet says that you believe in integrity, accountability, inclusion, and a caring community. As governing board members, you are responsible for how the district demonstrates those values to all the subs who were financially injured when you took away what they rightfully earned working in your schools, teaching your children right here. So I want you to think, what is the right thing to do for them? You can remain silent and ignore my question if you want, but doing so will demonstrate that it demonstrates your character as leaders, and it demonstrates the character of TUSD. I ask you to please restore the sick days that you took away from my colleagues or otherwise compensate them. And if you don't want to do that, can you please explain why that's ethical and accountable and has integrity? Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Okay, next letter to be read is from Judith Boehm.
Good evening. I would like to extend a thank you for the substitute teachers' raises last year. Now I'm requesting a cost of living raise this year. Didn't everyone get a raise this year? What about substitutes? Why did we not get a raise? Please help us get a raise too. Thank you, Judith Boehm.
Okay, thank you. Next is from Mr. Ron Lancaster.
This is the first time I've been here. This is nice. I just heard that you just did the budget, and that's bad news. But wait. I have some. My name is Ron Lancaster, and I'm a retired teacher and long-term substitute. I did some research for you all, and found to my surprise that many school districts in this country pay their subs a lot more, up to $60 more a day. I was shocked. No question about it, those districts let their bucks do the talking. I'm only bringing this up because everything is more expensive now. Gas and medicine and food and a whole assortment of living costs are more difficult to afford. My own rent went up $200 last month. So I hope you will sharpen your pencils and see what you can do. This is very important. Your substitute teachers and my friends depend on you. Also, maybe you will consider giving a finder's fee for people who bring in other substitutes. Don't use those recruiting firms. I heard that they charge way too much money, and they don't know what they're selling. Right here in your midst are hundreds of motivated individuals who can be out in the community every day doing some honest recruiting. spreading the word that being a substitute teacher is a great job. We should know. We walk in their shoes every day. We are the only ones that would know that it is a satisfying profession where a person can pick where and when they work and have a sense of well-being and an important part of educating our youth and being part of the community. With some financial incentive, I'm sure we could start networking to the benefit of everybody. Now, I know your job is not easy, doling out from an increasingly small pie from an increasingly small-minded state government. But I'm hoping that you will cut some more of that pie out for us. You're friendly, you're dutiful, you're substitute teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Miss Virginia Boucher.
Adelita wasn't here for the July 12th meeting for me to address her regarding the June 14th meeting. I'm sure you remember. Just in case you weren't listening, I want to let you know you two broke the open meeting laws because more than two of you addressed me. The way you guys addressed me was uncalled for. Right now, people are desperate for money due to the COVID mandates that you've all played a part in. Many people lost their jobs because of mandates. When people get desperate, they feel they have nothing to lose. I've had people try to enter my door at my home. If our politicians allow the homeless issue to grow and these mandates to continue, these people may soon be entering our schools to get food or items they feel they need to survive. Any person with any ill motive could enter our schools. There are many different reasons for a crime to occur. We cannot predict these. Do you expect counselors to come out and have a session with them while the criminal has a gun in their face? I would much rather have armed security readily available. Adelita wants to take armed security away from our schools and take guns away from law-abiding citizens. Many of you do not know this, but Adelita used school security as her personal security a few months ago, just outside this boardroom, against a group of parents that did not pose a threat to her. I guess it's okay for her to be protected, but not your kids. The entire board is protected here. We have to enter a security checkpoint, much like the ones at the airport. If you're also against armed security, why don't you forfeit your security here in the boardroom? Adelita mentioned some kids do not feel comfortable with law enforcement presence. I know a lot of kids afraid of vaccines and needles, but you sure push the shot clinics. So instead of trying to find a way of getting kids comfortable with law enforcement, you just say no to armed security, but you keep saying yes to the shot clinics. Those vaccine kills too. Speaking of vaccines, why are you guys still pushing COVID items after we've caught Fauci lying and what Dr. Deborah Birx has admitted in her recent statements? You have no reason for pushing your shots, your masks, or quarantines. UHS recently made the news with mandating masks in large groups. We're over it. TUSD is always making the news for the wrong reasons. You can wear your mask, my kids don't want to. Which of you do we hold responsible for mask injuries? Which of you do we hold responsible for vaccine injuries? I've personally known quite a few people that have died or have serious long-term injuries from this COVID vaccine.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Stephanie Kirk.
Can I touch this?
Sure.
Adelita, thank you. My name is Stephanie Kirk. I wanted to present a new study published in the New England Journal of Medicine has demonstrated that people who are triple vaccinated boosted COVID recovery significantly is slower and remain contagious for longer than people who are not vaccinated at all. People who have received a booster shot are 5 times more likely to still be contagious at day 10 post-infection than are those that are unvaccinated. That makes me question why you guys are providing a $250 stipend for employees who continue to inject with this stinky old injection that is over how many years old? I mean, literally, how many times have we heard we missed the strand? We totally missed the strand, and then we missed stop giving it. So I do not approve of the fact that you're giving people incentives. That's coercion. Not good. As I was looking through the ARP ESSER 3 funds, you can find all the details that state that you have 7,500 employees. Imagine if we were to give all that money at $250 a pop for these nasty shots to, I don't know, University High, who has a significant amount of mold in their basement classes. Or why don't we start putting that funding to substitute teachers? I mean, I'm a teacher myself. I do believe that we need more money. A Tucson High counselor is accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a student, and this TUSD board not only supported the drag show the alleged sexual predator organized, but you showed up and facilitated it prior to degrading parents for being concerned. Why are these children's faces being displayed under drag show titles on a social media account? Last time I asked this, the superintendent just was walking into the meeting during the call to the public. He missed literally half the call to the public. Actions speak louder than words, and it's clear that we the people and our opinions here do not matter. I have been present at a meeting before where I have been denied entrance inside to speak. I pay your guys' salaries with my tax money because I would not wear that mask. You basically took my precious speaking time where I can come here and read medical journals to which you guys look like little deers caught in headlights because you don't understand it. That's why I'm back today to remind you that I need you to stop pimping my kids to big pharma, government. Is this how you attract your employees, by displaying children's drag photos online? It is not in your authority or my taxpayer money description for you to further push gender dysphoria, mass test tracking, experimental injections, or questionable literature that continues this reconstruction of our youth's minds to accept this new big pharma normal. George Orwell once warned, the further society drifts from truth, the more it will hate those who speak the truth, which is why my time is often cut and interrupted by
Your time is up. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad. I bet you are glad my time is up.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Next letter is from Art Lopez.
Well, 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 what can I say to the news that came out yesterday that your child abuse will continue as you are masking the kids back up? Unfortunately, HB 2616 doesn't go into effect until September 25th. Did we, the people, not stand up and voice our concerns about the power control the TUSD board wants to control our children? The hypocrisy which the guidelines to why our children should wear a mask that doesn't protect anything. Gabe, you and the board don't listen to the parents or the community. You have not given any evidence that shows mask protects from this supposedly deadly virus. If this so-called virus is such a concern for parents, why do I only see a handful of individuals wearing masks by choice? I know my son will not be required to wear a mask because he will say no, and the school can call me to discuss why I am being a parent advocate for no mask. I hope other parents that don't agree with this tyrannical behavior stand up and don't allow their children to put on a mask. Again, I know I am not in person, and I am sure some in attendance and board members are wearing masks by choice, not because they are forced. We the people will never let you forget this behavior. Our choices will be heard next board elections. Art Lopez.
Okay, thank you. Next letter is from Amy Anderson.
Good afternoon. I am writing regarding the new mask requirement at UHS for gatherings of 75 or more. This is just more political theater from you until HB 2616 becomes law in September. It seems like TUSD just wants to exert their power while they can. Where did the 75 number come from? If it's 74 people gathering, COVID is not an issue, but at 75 people it is. This is made up nonsense, and parents should not buy into this. Thank you, Amy Anderson.
Thank you. Next letter is from Jennifer Sprung.
Another layer of central administration hiring and spending for administrators mentoring. Why? Is it not part of job duties of existing region offices? Why add another layer to central office at great expense and without direct impact on improving student achievement? When will the TUSD board hold all educational leaders and department managers to already existing professional standards? Why adopt another document and layer of bureaucracy when current board policies are not adhered? When will TUSD community receive an organizational chart that has been coming soon for 5+ years? More concerning, how is it possible with professional standards that the official employee records for a number of employees lack official evaluation records for recent school year and past years? This recently separated employee is missing in TUSD official employment file over 9 years of formal evaluations, positive documents, and no completed formal eval in school year 21-22. All completed evals went missing from employees' official file while TUSD underwent an EEO investigation dating to August 2021, despite AG letter requesting preservation of all records. Why were documents removed? Please look into employee file issues and common practices that violate laws, policy, and ethics. Sincerely, Jennifer Sprung.
Thank you. And Ms. Grijalva, that concludes tonight's call to the audience.
Okay, thank you. Board members, we'll go ahead and close the call to the audience. This is an opportunity to ask that staff review a matter, ask that a matter be put on a future agenda, or respond to a criticism. Anyone wish to do that? Okay, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, President Grijalva, and thank you to everyone who wrote into us today and spoke here at our meeting. I want to first begin by asking if staff can review the suggestions posed by Ms. Earle in regards to the ideas for improving the hub transportation. Ms. Earle is, although not the biological mother, she is one of the mothers of this child, and she's also the emergency contact. So I would implore the superintendent and Ms. Zamora to reach out to both these parents and try to rectify this issue as soon as possible. Let's see. Also, I just want to thank the subs for coming in and speaking, Ms. De Vera, Ms. Judith, and Mr. Lancaster. Thank you so much for your passionate speeches. I fully agree with you on all points. And also, I want to make sure, Dr. Trujillo, that we honor that order to give those subs that were working during that time either the sick days that they were court ordered to get or equal compensation. Let's see. And also, Ms. Sprung brought up a good point about the organizational chart that has been missing from our website with a we'll, check back later for at least a couple years as far as since I've been checking. And so I think that's really important. It would be important for me as a governing board member to review that, and I'm sure the public would also like to see the organizational chart of our district. And in regards to, the suggestions by Ms. Virginia and Ms. Kirk, I agree that, these vaccine stipends could be put to better use, whether it's paying our subs more, putting more money towards the arts. I think we should be student-focused, student-centered with the remaining Esser money. Thank you.
Any other board member?
Ms.
Okay,
Grijalva?
Ms. Luna Rose.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the armed security and that the board does not support it. And I just wanted to say I just took a tour of school safety and met with Mr. Hallens and his staff, and they do a fine job for our district. And I think I'd speak for all our colleagues that we were really appreciative of their work. So I just wanted the public to know that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Dr. Trujillo.
President Grijalva, members of the board, I would like to present for your consideration of approval the consent agenda as agendized and presented, item 5.2 through item 5.11.
Okay, board members, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Thank you. 6.1, approval of expenditures for general education teachers for TUSD schools using SAVE cooperative contract in excess of $250,000. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board, I'd like to welcome our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Flory Hewitt, to the podium to ask the board to consider approval for at least 5 personnel, 5 teachers to be used in highly certified teachers to be used in hard-to-fill areas with specific parameters. In the event that we are unable to find any internal coverage, meaning teachers willing to work any additional shifts, or the inability for us to secure a highly certified sub for the particular classroom, and verification that there are no applicants in the interview pool for the particular position. And then lastly, that we've reviewed class sizes to ensure that the position and the coverage that it provides is registered with the agreed upon consensus agreement class size limit for students. So it is very important that we go through these 5 checkpoints before we authorize any of the potentially approved 5 teachers that we would use. So here to give some details and to talk about our situation with regard to securing applicants and coverage, our Assistant Superintendent, Flory Hewitt.
All right, the item came up fast.
Thank
Good-
you. It's
good-
nice to see you in person.
Thank you, likewise. All right, good afternoon, governing board members, legal counsel, and Dr. Trujillo, and President Grijalva. This afternoon, we bring forth a proposal to request for maximum teachers or teachers again for our high-need schools, and this is to be funded through our Esser funding. So I'll go ahead and talk about the reasons and the steps that we will take before that takes place. All right, it's not letting me click. Okay, here we go. All right, so the reason we're bringing this topic once again to the governing board is because of the high need of teachers' positions that are needed across the district. But prior to requesting a maximum teacher, schools can utilize a contracted teacher only after the steps that are on the slide take place. So the first step, they would have to identify a hard-to-fill position, of course. They would have to have offered 6/5 teachers on campus before requesting any additional needs with through a maximum or contracted teacher. They also should have maximized the number of students in classrooms and have requested for long-term subs from the district. So those steps have to take place before a maximum teacher would be called out for one of these high-need schools. And the contracted teachers would be very last resort. That would have to take place before that happens. So let me see. All right. So the role, what we're asking for today, the teachers will be a group of no more than 5 certified teachers that would be available to fill any vacant, hard-to-fill positions in the district for this school year. The coverage of classrooms would take place in the event that schools have not been able to fill these positions for the upcoming school year. And as administration, the TUSD administration has determined that there is a need to have just these available contracted teachers for those hard-to-fill positions. We are requesting no more than 5, as I stated earlier, for an estimated amount of $385,000 funded through Esser through a SAFE cooperative contract. I know the governing board approved this item in February due to the high need in February that came, and it was through May. So we're coming back with potential through the rest of the school year for 5 additional contracted teachers through Maxim. All right, so I went through that pretty quickly, but I will open it up for questions.
So I have a question. So these 5 positions, are we asking for 5 for the entire year, and then we're going to continue to look for permanent people in all of these positions?
That's correct. So 5 for the entire year, especially for those high-need schools. And as you saw in the slide, I believe it was number 3 or 4, where the schools have to take those steps before we even contract those maximum teachers to be available to sub.
Okay, and then once we have one of these maximum teachers in a classroom and the position is able to be filled, are we continuing to hire? Are we going to continue to look for somebody, or is this a permanent person? Dr. Trujillo, I saw your hand.
Yes, to minimize this.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Forgot my microphone. To minimize disruption to students, we're not going to be doing any sort of mid-quarter, mid-semester replacements. I will say that if we are able to secure a highly qualified teacher, we would most certainly love to see a semester break for continuity in terms of not interrupting the daily instruction. We would probably look at that spring semester start.
And what grade levels are we looking at for these? Because these are general education, where before we were looking at exceptional education and some other services.
The high needs vary across the district, but mostly secondary is where we see the highest need.
So middle and high school?
Mm-hmm.
Is this mostly math at this point?
Mostly math.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions? Yeah, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, President Grijalva. So we heard a number earlier that to have a maximum teacher would amount to about $650 a day. Do you agree with that?
They have an hourly rate. I believe it's $58 an hour, and they would be covering the 6 periods, so per hour, whatever that amounts to, I would have to do the math.
Can you say that again?
Their hourly rate is about $58 per the contract, an hour. So if they have 6 periods, then they would be paid only for the hours that they deliver instruction.
Okay, and remind me how much we're paying our subs per day for both hard to fill or long-term and the regular rate.
I don't have that on the top of my head, but maybe
Dr. Trujillo, do you have that number?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but our subs are able to make, if they are in a fully certified situation where they're able to take over as a teacher of record at math or ELA for that long-term assignment, it's anywhere from 140 all the way up through 160 if you're a special educator and you can take over for an ex-ed classroom.
Okay, so almost equal to 3 hours of a maximum teacher, correct? Roughly. You know, I feel like we vote on this almost every board meeting, but I feel that, you know, we keep kicking the can down the road by getting these contracted teachers, and I feel like it's destroying the morale of our subgroup. I think a better way to spend this money is to increase the rates of our subs so that they fill these positions. I'm sure we have 5 substitutes in the pool who can teach math or are certified in math. I would like us to look harder at that. And I have a question about this slide. Are the school sites, is there a number, like, is the top one the first thing they do? Are they reaching out to the subs first, or are they first asking the teachers to do that 6/5? Is there like a...
Yeah, my understanding is that all of these positions are already in the subsystem for either long-term sub positions to be filled or daily subs to be filled. So yes, that's the very first step, identifying that position.
But it's at the regular rate that we're paying them, right?
In some of our schools, they do get compensated for the hard to fill compensation. So for example, schools like the Pister, Valencias that are harder to fill, they do receive that higher compensation.
Are those the sites that the 5 maximum teachers would be going to hard to fill?
I would have to identify that, Ms. Shaw, but most likely those are probably the high need sites.
Okay, do we not have the high need sites identified yet?
We have some. I would have to look back at our presentation when we identified our vacancies, but definitely those Southwest schools are the harder to fill.
Okay, thank you.
I think my concern is, you know, we really need to improve achievement for our students in math. And my worry is having a daily sub just come into the classroom repeatedly it's really a lost year. I mean, that's my concern. And you know, I know that our teachers have been doing, a lot of our math teachers have been doing 6/5 already. I think we maybe have to look at the rate of compensation there, because this is a significant investment, and I would much rather honor the work of our teachers that are willing to do more, and we just have to, if we're willing to invest this, I would like to see how much more we could do with the teachers we already have that are willing to do it. I know that it's a lot of extra work, and I don't know if the 6/5 covers it necessarily. I mean, I just don't think that it's as attractive. I think the teachers that are doing 6/5 are doing it because they know it's what's good for kids, and they're trying to like pitch in. But I don't think a daily sub and changing a person repeatedly is something that works for our schools. We have a significant shortage of math teachers. We have teachers across the board. I don't love this solution, but I don't, and I think that we really need to look, work with TEA and look at the 6/5 the contract there to look at how we can increase and make it, you know, kind of maybe more attractive for our teachers, our math teachers, to take the option. But I don't think daily subs is the answer at all. And they have to be certified in math, correct? And secondary, which is, I think, where some of the bigger issues are. Yeah, Dr. Trujillo, did you have something?
Yeah, so I want to do a couple of things. So number one, this is directly from our sub website. Daily certificated rate is $145 for a certified sub to take over as teacher of record in one of these core academic areas, and they're fully certified. It increases to $160 after 20 certified assignments are completed. They can be 20 assignments throughout the year. They can be at the same school. Long-term subs, taking that long-term assignments, they're highly qualified, they're fully certified. They can earn $175 starting on day one for extended placement requests approved by the sub-office. In terms of hard-to-fill schools, we're actually more looking at hard-to-fill positions, and that's secondary math. That's our number one concern right now, is middle school math and high school math. And it's not that we can't use, as you stated, Board President Grijalva, daily subs and change them out, or get a non-certificated individual who's willing to take over the class. We know that that is not academically in the best interest of the young person that we are trying to arm with the numeracy skills that they need. And that's why, as a condition, before even a consideration of Maxim, that we've noted in the public content, even before you can ask for a Maxim teacher, one of these 5, you need to prove to us that there is no highly qualified sub in the pool, or that a highly qualified sub you have reached out to has turned you down as an administrator and is unavailable. So we built those concerns into the requirements before you can consider a Maxim teacher. Our goal, of course, is TUSD kids with TUSD math teachers. I think we can take discussions about what compensation might look like certainly into our negotiations work, duly noted, and we can certainly work with Ms. Mesa and President Cheney on those discussions to see what that might look like.
Okay. Any other questions? Dr. Ravi.
Well, thank you, President Grijalva, and thank you, Ms. Hewitt, for your presentation and for all the work that's been going on behind the scenes to try to meet those requirements here to fill some of these positions. And you know, I do appreciate, as Mr. Lancaster leaves and the other speakers earlier today, and the call to the audience, and of course Ms. Vera, who's always here and always advocating for the subs over month to month. And there's a lot of system issues that we'll have to address and look at in terms of sub compensation and teacher compensation and so many other factors on a system level to really help address some of these shortages. I know we keep on coming to this issue to try to approve this, you know, over and over again, because I don't think we're ready for any permanent approvals. I don't think we're ready to give up on addressing the system issues and trying to, you know, address its shortage issues on a permanent basis. And so, you know, we come to this proposal again year after year, or at least in the 2 years that we've been doing this now, the second year that we're approving the Maxim contract, or being asked to approve the Maxim contract. And I hope that this is the last time, and then we'll have to continue addressing the system issues to try to make this the last time. And they'll be incumbent upon us and incumbent upon administration to find ways to work with the state budget that we have and work with everything that we're doing, and to make TUSD as attractive as it can be for potential teachers in our community. And so I will vote in favor of this tonight to get, you know, this taken care of for our students, you know, that need it now, But we'll keep on, this is a work in progress in terms of making sure that we can do what we can for teacher retention and recruitment.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, so I think what you're hearing, Dr. Trujillo, is we want to know all of the steps that have happened before this point. I know that this is not something that anyone wants to bring forward. I don't want to hear it. But I do know that the vacancy issues are real, that we have students in our high schools that have a handful of options in math because of staffing. And so it's causing those classes to be even bigger. I mean, it is a ripple effect that is not good for our kids. So, I'm going to go ahead and reluctantly move the item.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Ms. Peña?
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw?
No.
Ms. Counts? I'm sorry. Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Grijalva?
Yes, thank you. Item passes 3-1 with Ms. Shaw voting against.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on item number 7, Esser 3 expenditure request for school year 22-23, second COVID-19 booster. Dr. Trujillo.
President Grijalva, members of the governing board, as I noted in the superintendent's report, we want to use every tool in the tool chest to incentivize our employees to stay healthy, to adhere to the most successful mitigation strategies out there with regard to minimizing COVID-19 infection. In alignment with CDC guidance, the most current CDC guidance is recommendation is that employees that are eligible, of course, get the first booster, and those currently that are eligible 50 or over or 12 or older that are immunocompromised, go ahead and get the second booster. We do know that a little bit later on in the fall, probably as early as later this month or early September, that access to the second booster will be greenlit, or should be greenlit for everybody else. So we want to stay ahead of it, and given that one of the parameters for Esser expenditures is mitigation, we would like to propose an additional one-time stipend for those employees that successfully obtain the second COVID-19 booster at any point prior to June 30th, 2023. For more on the expenditure and where we stand with Esser 3 and the capacity to fund it, I'd like to bring up Mr. Lanza, John Lanza, Director for Federal Programs and Grants.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Good evening, Governing Board President Grijalva, Board Clerk Luna Rose, Governing Board members. Thank you for having me tonight. I quickly want to do a review here. Here we go. Of our eligibility requirements for Esser funds. So as you see there, eligibility, we're looking for these 7 areas in any of the expenditures. So academic loss, educational technology, mental health support, social emotional learning, distance learning, personal protective equipment, minimizing transmission, and then recruitment retention. As we've gone through these 3 cycles of Esser, we've used these decision-making guidance to really push us in making the decisions to make sure that the funds are getting to the right spot. So allowable use of the funds, obviously there's grant guidance for these. Immediate needs and response. The needs have changed, from year to year, semester to semesters, we've gone through this. And then the strategic priorities that have come out of this. Mitigation measures, academic recovery, long-term investments, and then one-time purchases. I think we might have skipped. Nope, we're good. Okay, so there you go. So the 3 different rounds of Esser. So Esser 1, we are actually wrapping that up next month. We are down to the very end of that grant, really just kind of the last rounds of benefits and things that need paid out. That has essentially all been allocated and used at this point. Esser 2, you can see there that the funds have been allocated. That was the majority of last school year that we used those in the schools. And many of the decisions that you made here as governing board members were based around Esser 2. Final allocations will be something next month that I will bring to you where we officially stand with final numbers for Esser 2. We'll need some guidance from you next month on making the final decisions for Esser 2. Then Esser 3, that is where these funds tonight would come out of. Esser 3, that still has pretty much a full 2 years. We have a year here really to think about where we want the final funds to go into. One thing I will point out with Esser 3, 20% of those funds need to be used for academic loss. So that is something I will give you an update on next month when we get our final budget numbers for this past year. So just to kind of reset where we've been, this was from April where I gave an updated financial summary. So this is just a reminder of our current standing with our Esser funds. So on the left is where our funding went last year out of these three different Esser funds. And then on the right, what I'll kind of point out there is in April, this is where we stood. We had a remaining balance of $132 million. And in the yellow, it kind of detailed up top 31 million. The detail is at the bottom of 31 million of Esser funds that were still out there. They had been allocated. We were wrapping up the school year, the fiscal year, and really that's where we're at right now. These funds are out there, and as we finish the fiscal year, determining what's actually left out of those. This slide is also from the last time I presented with you, and so if I'll kind of point you to this bottom half of that slide, the recurring costs. These were costs that you approved in April going forward into this current school year, and then you can see there's one that goes into fiscal year 24, but that was $52 million that you approved going forward from April into this year and next year. If you look over to the right there, that $52 million, that left us $80 million approximately between those Esser funds, and then you approved the $2,500 stipend spread over 3 semesters, $7,500 per employee, and that was a $63 million bill for that. So that left $17 million that was unallocated, and that is essentially what we are looking at tonight. The funding that we're going to ask for tonight would be coming out of that remaining $17 million. So the allocation request tonight, as Dr. Trujillo mentioned, this is a vaccine incentive stipend. We're asking for a $250 stipend for all TUSD employees, and this would be based on successfully attaining the second COVID booster. We did put a date in there to have that completed by June 30th, 2023, so the end of this fiscal year, and that's so that we can know exactly where we stand with the remaining Esser funds at the end of that fiscal year. The cost for that, 7,500 employees, adding in the 20% benefits is $2,255,000 to have that allocation begin. So tonight, the request is to consider that allocation for the $250 stipend, and then we are also asking for approval of that request.
Thank you. So, question, if you have teachers that are my age, that are already eligible, and I have fully vaccinated and have had 2 boosters, then I would be eligible for this after it passes, correct? Because I don't have there isn't another opportunity for me to get another booster. But once they open it up to everybody, then any employee that has received, that is fully vaccinated and is completely boosted, then they would be able to receive this.
Correct.
Right?
They fully vaccinated first booster and then the second booster.
So
available.
this is just for second booster.
Correct.
But you have to have the whole series in. Okay. Thank you. Board members, questions? Okay. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Mr. Lanza.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, you mentioned that Esser 3, we have to allocate 20% to student or academic recovery. Do you know ballpark how we're doing on that?
So that's what we are determining right now. The fiscal year closing at the end of June, our finance department right now is finishing up any outstanding invoices, doing the final counts on salary and benefits that were paid out. So that's what I'll present in September. The schools, have done a really good job in this, and a lot of what they've put into play with intervention programs and tutoring, our summer school, all of those count towards academic loss. So we're trending in the right direction, but to actually have the actual number, that'll be a big point next month that I'll bring up of where we're at, because if we're short, let's say 5 million, 10 million, we'll need to make sure we fully set that aside with the remaining Esser funds. And so that's something that's going to be really a highlight for me next month, is making sure we're right on target with that.
Okay. As far as Esser 1 and Esser 2, remind me again of how much we've already given to our employees for getting vaccinated.
And, I would have to go back and look at that. Dr. Trio, do you remember off the top of your head? So we've had the full round, I believe it was 1,200 for the first round. I'd have to go look, though, to get you an actual number.
It was quite a bit. I remember probably over 5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Total.
total, yeah.
I'll have to get you those numbers.
Okay, well, my point is that we gave quite a bit already to our staff for getting the vaccine. I think they were very appreciative. One thing we didn't give is, a stipend for everyone, whether they agreed to or not, to wear masks. I know we had some employees who didn't like it, some who did. But my point is that I think that that ship has sailed. And as far as I'm concerned, I would love to see this $2.25 million go towards students, whether that be, improving our libraries or adding more money to the fine arts. I was really surprised to see that we've only given $138,000 of the Esser money to the arts. And so I implore my colleagues on the governing board to really think like, what can this money do? $250 isn't much per employee, but across the board and district-wide, we can really help out some of our programs. Thank you.
Board members, any other comment? Okay, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, President Grijalva, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Lonson, and all the work that we've been doing over this last couple of years on all the Esser funding and organizing all this. And I appreciate bringing all the data in terms of what's been spent and what's available still to the discussion today. I asked for some data about kind of, did our first set of bonuses or incentives for vaccination, make any impact? And so sent kind of just a number of employees who received the incentives the first time around this past winter. And I believe about 60% or so of our employees were collected the fully vaccinated and boosted stipend, so less than we anticipated. So if we do approve this, it would be a lot less than the $2.2 million that's proposed here if it goes forward as proposed. And I think a lot of it goes back to what's the purpose, and that's what I was thinking about a lot after I read this over the weekend, the proposal for the first time, and what are we trying to accomplish? We want to have as many folks in TUSD fully vaccinated and up to date on their vaccines as possible. As Dr. Trujillo mentioned during his superintendent's report, we know that we're not talking about reducing emergency room visits or reducing real severe outcomes, especially for the younger population that we're working with, but reducing the morbidity that comes with COVID infections, and of course the missing school and missing work, and having the situation that we had during the Omicron surge this past January, where we had classrooms that weren't staffed, and we had to put together students in cafeterias because we didn't have any other safe place to keep them because so many folks were calling out sick because of exposure to or symptoms of or actual positive COVID infections. We want to try to avoid that. We anticipate there's going to be probably some surges that happen this fall and this winter again with COVID, as well as with flu or other viruses. And we want to try to avoid that because we want to keep our kids in our schools learning, and want to keep our teachers in our classrooms, as well as our other staff, supporting our students. And so what can we do as a governing board to help support our district, keeping our kids in our classrooms and our teachers in our classrooms? As of September 25th, we no longer can require masks, even if there is a big surge, and regardless of the evidence that protects and reduces transmission rates. And so we're not allowed to do that per state law going into effect in end of September, which really handicaps us from putting together some sound public health mitigation efforts in our schools. What can we do to incentivize, masks as encouragement? What can we do to incentivize vaccinations? And I don't know if we're ready tonight to support this, or at least I'm not ready tonight to support this without some more thinking and discussions about this. But what can we do to really help incentivize vaccinations, at least amongst the staff, that we can do some financial incentives for, excuse me as I stumble through my words. So looking and seeing, more digging down, whether we survey our teachers that, receive the bonus and stipends, how many of them made that decision because the stipend was there? If, a lot of them were going to get them anyway, then are we just rewarding, this behavior, or are we actually incentivizing and trying to encourage and change behavior because of the stipends? So I'd love to get some more information about that. And I think we have time to be able to do that. This isn't going into effect until the end of the year. I'd like to also see, a proposal that I was thinking about is, do we add to the 3 bonuses that are coming up, the semester bonuses, $2,500 over 3 semesters, and add an additional, 1 or 2 or $250, to those bonuses for 3 semesters for every staff member in TUSD who stays up to date on vaccines per the latest CDC and FDA recommendations. And that's going to change over the next year and a half. And is that a way over the next year and a half to continue to incentivize our staff to stay up to date with vaccinations? So I think there's other ways that we can try to put these proposals in place. But I would like to learn more about, from our teachers that received the bonus the first time around, did that make a difference, or was it just rewarding behavior that's going to happen anyway? And what are some other ways that we can do this over the course of the next 3 semesters with our bonuses coming up to help move the needle and keep as many folks vaccinated as possible?
Thank you. Ms. Luna Rose.
It would help if I turned my mic on. Thank you, Mr. Alonso, for your presentation. So the 2.225 out of the remaining 17, so that in my math, in my old brain, it's a little under 15 remaining.
Correct.
So what are we thinking about doing with the other remaining fund?
So that will be what we'll talk about in September. That's what I'll be presenting, the actual amount. That 17 million is an approximation. It's kind of looking at the trends of things we've allocated, where we see the spending heading. And so in September, I'll actually have solid numbers of what that number is. And that's where, we would want input from the governing board of where that spending should be directed. And then the other piece, as we brought up earlier, is that 20% academic loss. Are we on track for that? Do we need to save some of that remaining, in this case, 15 million for that? So that will be a September item.
Okay. And I'm sorry, one more comment.
No, you're good.
So I do agree with both my board colleagues. I think maybe we hold this for a moment and bring it back at a next board meeting where we can maybe do a little bit more digging. I think that would, since we do have a little bit of time, I think that would be favorable for the board.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Trujillo, it appears that we don't have the votes to move forward with this specific item, but I think what I'm hearing is, we've talked about the importance of learning loss in our students, and how do we make sure that all of those initiatives are being supported before we maybe talk about this and get, Dr. Ravi, some of the data. And so if you all could sort of jot down what some of those questions were, maybe send them over to Dr. Trujillo so we make sure that when this item comes back, I think it should come back comprehensive with some of the other initiatives for Esser funding and not sort of separate it out. I think that would be important. Okay.
Absolutely. And again, this was study action, so there is no requirement to vote tonight.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I will say that I agree with you, we do have time. Obviously, at this point in time, the second booster is not even available for what would be the bulk of the TUSD population, so we can go ahead and get started and compile that data. And of course, John will be back in September for governing board direction on those remaining funds. I just want to add not only that remaining balance and making sure that we've hit our 30% required allocation for learning loss, the board still has to determine the extent to which it wants to set a limit for, what is it again, the
Academic
indirect
loss?
costs.
Indirect costs,
Indirect
correct.
costs for the totality of the grant. That amount is yet to be determined, and I think that that would probably be the to-do that night as well.
It will be, yes. So we'll present that information as well. Indirect cost is another factor in this.
Yeah, and I think that when we talk about this and the importance, I also think that it would be very helpful if, there's something about close contact, and some of our unvaccinated staff members, if they have a close contact, they have to go home, as opposed to if you're vaccinated, you can stay, from my understanding, you can stay in school, provided you don't have any symptoms. So I think that maybe reviewing some of that and to try to encourage some of our parents to get students vaccinated as well, because if you think about how much learning loss is happening, I mean, I would get regular updates on how, your child was in a classroom with someone who had COVID, but because they're vaccinated, they can stay in, kind of monitor symptoms, that kind of thing. And I think that's really important as well, to keep our teachers as safe as possible. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You so much. All right, we have addressed 8.1 with that beautiful rendition of America the Beautiful. So now we are on 8.2. This is the 21-22 TUSD School Quality Survey Overview, and this is parents, staff, and students. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Grijalva, members of the governing board. This is actually kind of a mini study session on an executive overview of the year-end school quality survey, where we receive detailed feedback from parents, students, and our employees on their experiences in TUSD campuses, specifically with aspects of customer service, access to technology, campus cleanliness, safety, classroom management. And it's literally one of the most comprehensive mechanisms that we have as a leadership team to really get a feel for the tone and the climate on our campuses from three of our most important stakeholders. So here to take us through this executive summary is our Senior Director for Assessment and Evaluation, Dr. Hallie Freitas. And the way that we'll structure it, because it is a mini study session, at the conclusion of each executive overview, and we'll start with the parent results, I want to throw it open to board discussion. That way it's parent-centric, and then we'll roll to the student quality survey, and then at the conclusion of that one, board discussion, so it's more focused on the students, and then we'll follow that same format for the final executive summary, which is our staff. With that, Dr. Freitas.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Governing board members and legal counsel, good evening. So Jean, you and I are going to work together on moving these slides forward. So we're going to start with the parent school quality survey. So each of these surveys are slightly different and have slightly different numbers of questions. And so as we work through that, I just wanted to point that out. For example, like in the parent survey, the majority of the questions focus around instruction, intercultural proficiency, and customer service in school environment. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are major categories in each of these surveys. And so rather than, we'll drill down to certain questions, but I wanted to give you the big view first. And so these are our large categories. And you can see that a number of them have over 85% satisfaction, which is lovely, including instruction at 90% satisfaction, intercultural proficiency at 90%, leadership and communication at 86%, and then overall satisfaction of parents of their schools at 87%. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a bit of a busy slide, but I wanted to show you some kind of breakdown of school types so that it wasn't just this big clump of strongly agree or strongly disagree. And so once again, we have the different categories along the bottom. And as you look across, you'll see that purple is elementary, that K-8 is blue, that middle school is pink, and high school is orange. And so I want to take your attention all the way to the my far right side, the grand average. So that's just taking all the different categories and looking at the big average. And you can see that the trends are that in terms of our parents, that our elementary school parents are most satisfied, followed by our K-8 parents, followed by high school, and then middle school. And so as we go, so now we'll go all the way to the left-hand side, and you can see that instruction overall, I mean, elementary schools a little bit higher, but overall, parents are pretty satisfied with instruction. The customer service and school environment, you can see that there's a little bit of diversity, and what you'll see is that middle school is the lowest of the different school types, and you will see that repeated in parent, staff, and student surveys. And as we move forward, intercultural proficiency, once again, there's a little bit of diversity. Leadership communication, elementary school is the highest, but overall, it's pretty high. In school council, academic and partnerships, what we see there is that parents are more involved with their younger students, and as they move through the grades, parents become just incrementally less involved in, psych council or other academic partnerships with families. So that's sort of the big picture. So next slide, please. All right, so what I did was I took individual questions at this point, saying, okay, 90% agreement or higher. So this is what, parents feel really strongly about. And you can see that the A sections, so I tried to keep the grouping. So the A sections are instruction, right? And so 90% or higher, there's 5 questions. So more than 50% of the instructional questions received very high ratings, including satisfaction with teaching their child to write, social studies, geography, history, and science, and computers. So the idea of teaching all those subjects was in very high agreement, in addition to teaching their child to read. And then parents were also very satisfied. They felt that the staff in the schools were friendly and assists in a timely manner. And what's important about this 90%, and that's that this is district culture, right? Because this is across all schools, all school types, that we have 90% agreement or higher. And so this defines TUSD, assets in many ways. So our parents believe strongly that teachers treat their students with respect and that their children feel welcomed at the school, and that at the school that students get along with each other regardless of their racial, ethnic backgrounds, and that their child is socially integrated in the schools. So those all got 90% agreement across school types. Okay, next slide, please. And so this is the other side. This is where parents are less happy with the sort of district procedures, and this is 20% more or higher disagreement. And so parents feel that students, or that 20% or more, feel that students aren't behaving during class, and that there's an issue with bullying or harassment, and you're also going to see that across parents, staff, and student. And then site council regularly communicates the progress in meeting goals, and that I feel represented by someone on school council. So parents, more than 20% do not feel that they're being represented, or that they're working with school staff to improve school improvement, or that they're using strategies provided by their school to improve their child's learning, or that they know the qualifications of their child's teachers. So those are the ones that received less satisfaction. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to sum up then our parent satisfaction survey. Parents are satisfied with school's effort to teach reading, science, social studies, writing, and computers. Parents feel welcomed by the school staff and that they are helpful. Parents feel that teachers are respectful to students and that their child feels welcomed at the school, and that their child is socially integrated, and that students have diverse friends. And so these areas, once again, it doesn't matter if it's elementary, middle, high school, K-8, that this is how parents feel about TUSD, our parents. And then next slide, please. And so these are some areas where we can certainly work to improve based on these survey results. And that's to increase more social emotional learning in our schools, to reduce social isolation, bullying, or negative behaviors that are reported in this survey. And again, to hire more highly qualified teachers with strong classroom management skills. And the reason for this is to keep students engaged in a respectful and productive environment, and then that would improve student behavior. And then to increase more opportunities to involve parents in our school parent partnerships, such as school council or serving on a committee or helping to develop school-based plans. Another area that we can improve in is our communication between schools and families, just to make sure that parents are really in the know all the time, and to continue that partnership with more communication, again, on how to support the child both in school and at home. Next slide, please. And so that concludes my, the first of three. That's the parent satisfaction survey. And are there any questions?
Board members, questions? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, President Grijalva, and thank you for the presentation. How many parents participated in this survey?
So typically, we get about 30% of parents who respond to the school quality survey. This year, it was just a little less. We were about 26%, but typically, it's about 30%.
And that's-
for parent surveys, that's pretty good.
Okay, and do you know like the number for the?
Yeah, we have about 10,000 responses a year. This year, we got about 7,800.
Okay, and how, I assume that these questions are the same from last year. How does this compare to last year's results?
Our results, well, okay, so last year, 2021, was a very difficult year for both students and staff and parents. And across the board, we had very unhappiness. But if we don't think about last year and we go 2 years back, it's very similar. But our remote instruction year caused a lot of stress and hardship on our families and our students.
Yeah, Dr. Ravi?
I just want to build on Ms. Shaw's question. So do you see the same areas of disagreement and agreement 2 years ago as now, or are the trends the same in terms of where parents are struggling?
I can say, except for our COVID year, our parents typically are very satisfied with their schooling experiences in TUSD.
Any other questions? Okay, and if you have questions, we can also ask you at the end of all of your
Absolutely.
presentations.
Yes,
So we're
yes.
one of three. Now we're
Yes.
on 2 of 3.
Yeah, so you're going to hear a lot of similar themes in all of these. Okay, so we're going to do student next. So, Ms. Shaw, just to answer your question before you ask it, about 2/3 of our students responded to this survey, or about 19,000 students.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the student quality survey, this is for grades 3 through 12, and we have 30 questions, and they're divided into these 5 categories. You'll see that there's overlap between the parent survey and the student survey. Next slide, please. So with our students, the areas where we have more than 85% or more agreement is in students' feelings of their own personal qualities, what they bring to school every day, as well as their overall satisfaction with the school. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, we have this slide that's a little complicated to look at. And so once again, we have purple as elementary, we have orange as K-8, we have green as middle school, and pink as high school. And so again, we're going to start on the far right side with the ground average. And you can see that unlike the parent survey and the staff survey, you'll see that elementary, K-8, and high school with the ground average are really close together, you know, and so this is student perception. Middle school's a little lower, and we'll see that overall. But that's, you know, so I think what that tells us is that students, you know, feel pretty much the same overall, you know, when we look at the results of this survey, regardless of what school type they're in. When you look at the next one over, the overall satisfaction, the next to the left, you will see that elementary school students, when asked specifically, are you satisfied? Elementary school students are, yes, yes, you know, more than 90%. And then it goes to K-8, and then high school, and then finally to middle school. So I think the one thing that sort of stood out to me in this one was, if you look at A, the instructional quality is pretty consistent across all school bands, and then B, with the environment, it's pretty consistent except for our middle school, which is less, and across the board, the environment is less than all the other categories. Okay. Next slide, please. So once again, these are 90% or higher agreement questions. And so the A are instructions, and so you can see that students that, more than 90% of students feel as though their teachers encourage them to do their best, that they can ask questions, and that they have an opportunity to answer questions. Students also feel very strongly that it's okay to hang out with students of different racial and ethnic groups, and that they themselves can make friends across different racial and ethnic groups. And then the personal qualities, which is the D, that students overall, they try hard to come to school, not be absent, follow rules, stay out of trouble, and that the school culture at the school is that it's pretty integrated. Okay, and so what students are less satisfied with are, that they don't enjoy what they're learning in school. And so the next three are about computer literacy, right? That students feel as though they don't use a computer often at school or at home, and that the school does a good job of teaching them to use computers. Students feel overall that their schools could be cleaner, that students could behave better, and that they feel as though that there has been bullying in the school and that they have experienced it. Students also have reported that they disagree, or more than 20%, actually it's 34% disagree with. I rarely hear students say negative things about the racial or ethnic backgrounds of others, or special needs of others. And so this is, it's an interesting contrast because students themselves feel socially integrated. They feel as though students get along at the school, but at the same time, there is this sort of undertone of negativity that they're experiencing. So there's both things happening at the same time. And what they're learning in school helps them understand their own culture and the culture of others, that didn't get as strong agreement as 20% disagreed, and that students don't always complete and turn in their homework on time. Okay, next slide. So this is in summary. So this is our areas of success, and that's that school satisfaction. It certainly varies by school type, but overall, about 85% of our students are satisfied, and then in middle school, it's a little less, with about 80%. And that, I think, a real cause for celebration is that the vast majority of our students feel supported and respected by their teachers. They feel that their teachers want them to do their best and encourage them to participate in their classroom activities. I think another area of great success is that students feel so they make friends easily with diverse students, and that diverse students get along with one another. And then students themselves, they're trying really hard to be good citizens and follow rules, stay out of trouble, and attend school regularly. And the vast majority feel welcomed at their schools. Okay, and so our areas of improvement, we just based on the student feedback, we can think about increasing digital and multimedia instruction and integration into lessons and school activities. To build that technology literacy and programming skills. And then, we should really consider the relevance and purpose of homework assignments because according to the survey, if students aren't completing it and turning it in on time, what is the connection between that and the school day? And again, to hire more highly qualified teachers, of course, that was a recommendation from the parent satisfaction survey as well. Working with facilities and school community to keep our schools beautiful and well kept up. And this is another one that you've seen before, increase more social emotional learning in schools to reduce student isolation and bullying. And then we do a good job at providing culturally relevant pedagogy, but we can always improve to help to increase the connection of lessons to students' lived experiences. And are there any questions about the student survey?
Board members? Okay. Oh, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Well, I wonder why all of the questions were posed like in the positive perspective.
Well, there's a whole bunch of research about that. And because we are asking students to fill out a survey from grade 3 to grade 12, when we do reverse questions, it's very confusing for our lower grades. So we write them all in a positive statement, and then they can choose to disagree or strongly disagree.
Right. I mean, can we go back to some of the questions? The slides, previous slides that have some of the survey questions, please. Keep going. Oh, yeah. That works. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I was confused when reading some of these, you know, because to disagree is almost like double negative. And I feel like, you know, of course, I agree that, you know, with the younger grades, it could be confusing. I wonder if we could have a separate survey for the younger kids if that's an issue. Because some of the things I see at school, although it's sort of addressed in these questions in a wraparound sort of way, I don't see it posed like in the individual perspective. Like, for instance, C and C, you know, there's nothing like I have experienced racism at my school from a student or from a teacher or something like that. And I'm interested in finding out that data. So, you know, I know this has already gone out. We already have the results. But next year, as far as like the older grades, I would like to see a little bit of variance in the questions. And well, to my last, your previous presentation, how does these results compare to last year?
Again, last year was a difficult year for our school community, and you know, I think it's fair to say that there's not a lot that is comparable from last year to any other year that I've been in education, and it's been a long time. But if we skip last year and go to prior years, the results are comparable.
Okay, and what have we done to address, since they're comparable for 2 years ago, what have we done as a district to get these numbers to rise?
So, Dr. Trio, I mean, there's a number of initiatives that we have in place with social emotional learning.
Absolutely, yeah. And so probably, and these are consistent with what I hear from students. It's no surprise that campus cleanliness is a concern of our students. In fact, the whole reason we brought the bathroom renovation proposal to you was actually just students telling us directly they weren't satisfied with the conditions on campus. So some of these we knew. We also know that the prevalence of daily subs and the lack of a highly qualified teacher also has our students fairly frustrated. And we know that bullying has been incredibly pervasive with the expansion of access to social media and devices. And bullying continues to be one of the more difficult behaviors to manage because so much of it occurs online and is hidden from plain sight, though it could be occurring on the campus, from phone to phone, from cell to cell, or from Instagram account to Instagram account. I think we've done 3 very, very notable things. Number one, we've adopted Character Strong, which is the new social emotional learning curriculum for the entire district. We've provided some really great professional development for our principals, and our teachers will be trained on Character Strong throughout the year. Our counselors have already been implementing Character Strong lessons in our schools. So I think that's big. And I'm also very excited about the leadership of our new Student Relations Director, Anna Warmbrand, who had an opportunity to meet with all of the administrators and facilitate a great working session during our Summer Administrators Academy just a few weeks ago, where every single campus now are going to be required to set up disciplinary teams that are going to meet frequently every other week to assess disciplinary conditions on the campus and to make real-time adjustments in interventions and requests for support. These multidisciplinary teams will consist of counselors, MTSS facilitators, classroom teachers, and even support staff that are on the ground with students. This is very different than what's occurred in the last year or two with COVID, where sites have just done the mandatory unitary status reporting for disciplinary occurrences on campuses. Those are two really, really big things that we're doing in these areas. I think also working with our operations department to make sure that we are leveraging wherever we can the support of these vendors that we're working with for campus cleanliness. This governing board actually took some serious action by increasing the wages for groundskeepers and custodians. I think the $15 an hour wage adjustment on top of that is going to help us to recruit and retain more groundskeepers and more custodians so that they are tending to the needs of the campus. I think the campus cleanliness issue, that is directly a result of lack of staffing and having adequate custodians to be able to fill a lot of these positions. So that's a little bit of some of the three marquee areas that we're really working on with some of the student feedback.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Clerk Luna Rose.
Thank you, President Grijalva. And thank you for your presentation, or right in the middle of it so far. I do have a quick question because I have put together these, customer satisfaction surveys is basically what these are. So, and excuse my ignorance, I mean, I did look at the parent one, but I did not fill it out just because I feel like as a board member, it was a little bit biased. So I'm kind of curious, with the student questions, were there, did every question have like an open-ended, were there open-ended comments allowed?
So we have not ever had open-ended comments with the school quality survey because of the numbers of responses we get back, and the collation of open-ended surveys responses would be impressive. So, when we're getting 50, 60,000 surveys back, so,
Sure.
in total.
Okay, and I understand that. But I do agree with Ms. Shaw that, maybe for next year, it might be too hard for a third grader, or a little too complicated for them to maybe open-ended. Maybe we keep that in mind for high school and maybe some select questions, or just maybe one general, at the very end, an open-ended question if they have any more comments, and cap it like 250 words or something like that. I think that might go a long way to maybe getting even more kids to fill it out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you
for the suggestion.
Any other questions? Okay. One more. Right?
One more.
Okay.
All right, so our last one is the staff. And we get a very high response rate with our staff. We usually get about 75% or 80% response rate. And so this survey has the most questions of all and the most categories. And so you can see that more than half of the survey focuses on intercultural proficiency, leadership, and instruction. So that's really where the meat of the survey is focused. Next slide, please. So you can see that we have more categories, and that the ones, and really our staff are pretty happy. It just makes me really pleased to look at this data, because if you start at the bottom with job satisfaction, that 92% of our staff are satisfied or either highly satisfied with their job. And so those categories that have more than 85% proficiency, if I start at the top, it's instruction, intercultural proficiency, leadership at 90%, site-based organizational development at 87%, computer technology at 92%. I think that's a shout out to TS and Blaine Young, getting computers in the hands of everybody. Academic partnership at 88%, overall satisfaction at 89, and then of course job satisfaction. Next slide, please. All right, so once again, here we have the breakdown by school type. And not dissimilar to students and parents, the staff in middle schools are less satisfied than our staffs in elementary, K-8, and high schools. And similar to our other surveys, it seems as though our elementary schools are the place where staff, parents, and students are most satisfied, followed by K-8s, and then by high schools, and then lastly middle schools. And you can see that the areas where there are low scores is in B, in the environment, with our middle schools, and in E, our professional development in middle school and high school. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so here we are again. And so we have 2 slides of questions that are 90% agree or higher, because staff are overall pretty happy. It may not always feel like that here, but you know, from the survey, it certainly seems that way. And so, you know, staff feel that students are taught by an experienced and qualified staff, and that they value their professional learning communities to help improve the instruction, and that students have a safe way to report conflict, and that the school staff are involved, and that they intervene with behaviors that are culturally insensitive or reflect prejudice, and that students' participation in school programs and activity represent the diversity of the larger student body, and that the school in general is very welcoming to diversity. Next slide, please. Staff also feel very strongly that students get along from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. And then the next 3 are about leadership, and our staff feel very strongly in a positive way about their leaders. My principal is fair and consistent when evaluating staff. My principal delegates responsibilities so that school staff members have opportunities to share in leadership duties, and my principal promotes the belief that all students can achieve at high levels. So those 3 questions all received greater than 90% agreement by our school staff, our teachers. School staff uses culturally relevant student data to evaluate and improve instruction. They have adequate access to computers at the school, that they integrate technology into their daily lesson plans. And that's rather interesting, that teachers feel as though they're using technology and integrating it, and that students feel as though they are really lacking in computer literacy. So that's a bit of a mismatch between teachers and students. And parents have multiple opportunities to be actively involved. That's a little bit of a mismatch between parents saying that they're not, you know, that there could be more opportunities to be involved, and that I want to continue employment with the district. Okay, next slide. So this is where staff have 20% or higher disagreement, and you're going to see some of these that have been repeated in the other surveys. But we'll start at the top. Common grade level assessments, quarterly benchmarks, or other school-selected assessments have led to improved instruction for all students. Wednesday professional development helps to improve instruction at the school. Students behave during class. The school is clean and well kept. This year, I've rarely observed or had reported to me students engaging in bullying or harassing behavior. Academic results are the same for students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds. Students treat teachers with respect, and professional development provides school staff with sufficient skills to identify specific learning gaps in quarterly student data results, and I feel my efforts in my job are adequately recognized and valued. So that's where 20% or more have disagreement or strong disagreement. Next slide, please. So here are our areas of success with our staff. Yeah, thank you. So Satisfaction does vary by school type, that our elementary and K-8 staff are more satisfied than our middle and high school staff, but overall, everyone's pretty satisfied. Staff value professional learning communities and believe that their peers are experienced and qualified. Schools are welcoming to diversity in school programs, activities, and that represent the school's diversity. Staff believe that their principal is fair, provides leadership opportunity, and believes that all students can learn at high levels. Staff use data to evaluate and improve instruction. Staff has adequate access to computers and integrates technology in their instruction. Parents can have multiple opportunities to get involved, and that overall staff's very satisfied and wants to continue working with TUSD. Next slide. And so our areas of improvement for our staff is to provide PD that is relevant to teachers' needs, especially in middle and high school, and to create more school-wide expectations about the value of instructional and the assessment cycle to support teachers in adjusting their instruction based on student feedback and identifying those student gaps based on quarterly data results. Really to work on middle school culture so that school environments are cleaner and socially safe, respectful, and welcoming. And this one we've seen, repeatedly about the social emotional learning to reduce social student isolation. And then rigorous instruction so that all students can attain high academic results, and more project-based learning to improve classroom climate, to become more respectful and inviting, especially in middle schools and high school. And that's it. Any questions?
Board members, questions? I think it's interesting that the information and feedback sort of align with what we're seeing in enrollment patterns, is that, we have work to do in the middle school, and we see that with every one of the cohorts sort of acknowledging that there is work to do there. And we've seen it repeatedly. So at this point, I think we know. I'd like to see us roll out to the community what the plan is to address that. And I do like the idea of at the end of the parent survey, the student survey, and the staff survey, if we can have, do you want someone from leadership to contact you regarding your questions, concerns, whatever. So that way we have a loop back, and so we don't just ask, get the feedback, and then, you have parents that are now, you've brought up all these frustrations and then they don't have anywhere to go with them. I do think that that's an opportunity that we have to sort of continue the customer service. I think it's nice to ask what people think, but I also want to make sure that we hear what the concerns are and what it is that we can do about it. And the environment questions, I talked to Dr. Trujillo about that. I think the expectation was we were going to have staff that were working on our schools throughout the summer, working on the environment, making sure that all of, everything was in working order. We always have issues with HVAC, but as much as practical, I'd really like to see us do a better job in making sure that all of those needs are met, and that fewer reports that come through the superintendent's office for support, and trying to figure out where those gaps are in service. If we have people, I know people call us about our AC being out for 3 months or 2 months. It's like, where does that request go? Did the ether, what happens to it? And sort of following through on some of those systemic issues that might be just one point of contact, but at least that way they know that we're following up. I think it's important because it gets addressed as soon as it goes, if we can deal with it, it gets addressed as soon as it goes to the superintendent's office. So I know that there's a way to do it. It just shouldn't have to go through that path. But otherwise, I think, I filled out these surveys. I know my kids filled out the surveys. I think it's good that our students are getting back to us and letting us know what they think. Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Are the surveys already aggregated by school site?
Yes.
Okay, so we can break it down and look at, for instance.
Yeah, and the data is available for the public on TUSD data reports, and then internally on TUSD web data.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, in regards to, well, I know I said previously that, you know, maybe we can pose some questions, not in the positive sense, but I wonder, like, because even the answers of agree instead of strongly agree, like agree kind of infers that there's room for improvement. It's almost like an average answer. And so the results that you know, it's kind of, I mean, you use agree and you're strongly agree, and I don't think that's necessarily, it's not really a, I think we could do better at finding like people's true feelings. And I wonder if, like, instead of strongly agree, agree, disagree, if we might next year use like a letter grade system, A, B, C, D, F. That would only add one more thing, and then we could get more of an accurate assessment of like, are we doing really well in this area, or is it just kind of average? Because I don't know, it's just, I just don't feel like there's enough information. There's a lot here, but like, how are they really feeling, and what are the real areas of improvement? Because, like, you know, you see the results, and I'm a little surprised with some of the results. So yeah, that's just an idea for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
your
very much,
presentation.
and thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
the opportunity to present. And thank you, Jean.
Thank you. All right, we're on 8.3, 2021-22 TUSD Summer Experience Review. Dr. Trujillo. And
Yes,
Ms.
President
Aranda.
Grijalva, we would like to go ahead and wrap tonight's meeting with a final executive overview of how it went for us for the 21-22 summer experience. And here to give us that information is our Senior Director for Curriculum and Professional Development, Heidi Aranda.
All right, thank you very much. I'll give this a try. Oh, it did. It worked, Jean. All right. So good evening, President Grijalva, Clerk Luna Rose, Governing Board members, Superintendent Trujillo, and Council Ross. I'm excited to share with you tonight a review of our 21-22 summer experience. Once again, we had an engaging and positive school summer experience program. We were able to offer a variety of district programs for students K-12, as well as sites offering some unique programs of their own. Some of those programs included Move On When Reading in K-8, Dual Language, GATE, Jumpstart, Language Academies, programs for newcomers, of course, Full Steam Ahead, and also some exceptional education programs. And at the high school, at the district level, we offered IB Boot Camp, Freshman Academy, newcomers programs there as well, Credit Recovery, AP Boot Camp, Credit Advancement, and self-contained ex-ed programs. In the end, 10,874 students actually attended summer school. Wow. Elementary and high school, of course, had the greatest enrollments with 5,977 students in elementary, 2,800 students in 9-12, and over 2,000 in middle school. We served over 120,000 meals this summer. Almost 90,000 of those were school lunches. Remember that our school meals program is open to the community for any student under 18 and under. This summer, we offered transportation to K-8 students, and we transported 139 students in the morning, and 133 in the morning, 139 in the afternoon. Something else we did this summer for the first time was to send a satisfaction survey. I know you've been talking about surveys for a while this evening. we received over 1,400 results from surveys returned from families. I don't know the exact number of surveys we sent out. I know there were 10,000 students, but many of those families had multiple children attending and mentioned that in their survey results. Of those that responded, the majority of them were parents from elementary school, 50% of them, 27% in high school, etc. Of those surveyed, the majority of those were just in our regular programs, but you can see the also survey results from those different specialized program, which is nice with the results, so we can provide those individual programs with feedback specific to their program. So we surveyed a few areas. We surveyed areas in regards to registration and that process. This year was the very first time that we registered students online. And so that was a huge transition. Not huge because they do that for the regular school year, but had never done it for summer school. We also surveyed parents about transportation, overall satisfaction, and communication around the program. So we'll take a look at those results. So this is results about registration and whether it was an easy process to register their student for summer school. And as you can see, the majority of parents agree and strongly agree that 92.8% of them that it was easy to register for the program. This is a question in regards to transportation and whether parents got the communication about whether what route their student was going to be on and what the pickup time was and drop-off time. So overall communication about transportation. 70% of families reported that they received that communication, and 30% disagree or strongly disagree. So an area for a little bit of improvement with the use of the online system. Overall satisfaction with the program, 89.1% of families said they were satisfied with the program. I'm sorry, I'm one slide ahead in my notes. 83.4% of families were satisfied with their students' summer school experience overall. And 89.1% of families were also satisfied with the communication they got about the program. We did have an open-ended response at the end, just comments and open general place for people to give us feedback. And so I've summarized that. I haven't done a complete thorough, but I read through all of them and kind of brought out, so I'm going to share some highlights from there. So this is some positive feedback in K-8. Great STEM projects, had a blast. Underback Middle School provided wonderful learning experience for my 12-year-old twins. They were exposed to a music program that was exciting and challenging. We all gained so much in a short time. She loved it and looked forward to getting picked up by the drivers. Mm-hmm. They were very nice. Summer school helped both my children to learn what they will come into for their first grade. Fun and educational. My kids all want to attend again. I know my husband picked up my granddaughter every day, and she could not stop talking about what STEM project they did that day. Mm-hmm. He learned a lot. At the high school level, my daughter enjoyed going, learned some valuable skills, and feels more prepared for entering high school. We did have an overwhelming amount of positive comments regarding Freshman Academy and that opportunity to get that taste of high school before school started. AP readiness was good for my daughter to experience prior to this coming school year. I'm happy that our incoming freshman daughter had the opportunity to attend summer school. She has a feel for the campus and basic understanding of how to get around. This was great for my son to get back into in-person from being remote the last 2 years. Thank you for this opportunity. My son did the Credit Recovery Great program. We also saw trends that will help us improve, of course, which was great. And most of them had a common theme around communication. And so it's nice to dig in a little bit deeper, even though they overall were happy with communication about the programs. There were some communication issues, especially in a specialized program and how those programs worked and how to get registered for them, how long they lasted. Registration, just getting that like confirmation, like you're signed up. There's nothing else you need to do. So that part of registration, it was easy to register, but kind of that next follow-up step. Transportation, communication during summer school, and then final grades, like, okay, how many credits did they recover? What grade did they get? You know, things like that. So those are all areas that we'll really look forward to improving. And this feedback will be given during summer school planning meetings to those that do the planning and are responsible for different programs. And that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
No, I actually attended my son's first grade teacher had a little reunion of all of her first graders that were going into middle school, and it was the best. But I did have an opportunity to hang out with a lot of parents that all had children at the same age. And so my 3 went to summer school, and his teacher ended up leaving TUSD and came back and taught the summer program. And she said, I just can't tell you how impressed I was with the curriculum. The science curriculum was amazing. And so she taught elementary, but she said it was just so great. And she's like, and I learned a lot, which is great because she's like, you know, you sort of get into this point where like, I know all of this stuff to teach. And she said, and the focus on science was so great because the students got super excited about it, and she'll be teaching in our district next year. So I don't know if the positive experience in the summer helped sort of push her that way, but you know, I just think that overall the teachers that I spoke to thought that the experience was really positive and helping our students transition back onto campus full time. That was really helpful. My kids enjoyed it, so thanks. I thought it was good.
We do get a ton of great feedback from our teachers.
Yeah, the curriculum apparently was
they love
great.
the science curriculum.
Yeah. Any comments or questions, board member? I'm Ms. Luna Rose and then Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Unfortunately, my daughter did not attend this summer due to travel, but my nephew did. Could not say enough about how much he enjoyed it. He was telling me about it. He's excited that his aunt's on the school board, so he tells me everything exciting at his school. But I did want to just make a mention. I did pick him up one day from his bus stop, and bus driver was lovely. We chatted. He was excited to give the bus driver a hug. I mean, I just think it was just a really nice feeling there. So I just wanted to extend the thanks to the bus drivers this summer for doing that and engaging with the kids. They seem to be having a good time.
And you saw that comment. That was one of the things the little girl looked forward to every day, right? Getting picked up by the driver. So they really are a first impression for our students, our bus drivers.
Absolutely. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My daughter did not go to summer school, but she did last year and she loved it. But I do want to ask a question about the credit recovery. Do you know how many credits were recovered over the summer?
I don't. I can work on that. I think there are still students like finishing up. I saw an email today buttoning up a couple of assignments, but I can see if we can get those results for you.
Okay, I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. Any other? All right. Thank you, Ms. Aranda.
Thank you.
All right. So we're at the end of our meeting, but I do have item 9.1. We were asked by staff to identify some dates for special meetings, and so I wanted to go ahead and announce them and make sure that perhaps we get a reminder from staff, and then if we can individually put them into our calendars. Our next board meeting, Tuesday, August 23rd, we're going to start executive session at 3 p.m. in order to accommodate some additional hearings. And then these are all executive session. And so the board meeting, we were going to start at 4 p.m. So we're starting an hour early there. And then we have Wednesday, August 24th, from 2 p.m. on. I would say 4:30 would probably be the latest. And then Thursday, August 25th, 2:30 to 4, if we need that. And so hopefully that will give us an opportunity to schedule those executive session items that we need to. All right, any other questions? Comments? All right, well, thank you all so much for your attendance, for those of you that are here in person and online, and we will see you on Tuesday, August 23rd. Thank you. Good night.